We need to get the latest news from Austin, and for that, as always, we turn to Evan Smith with the Texas Tribune. Evan, a week focused on school funding.
Well, other than the snowpocalypse, yes, that's what
right.
we are talking about education. This was a week in which the education activists, and by that I mean everybody from the superintendents on down to just regular parents, came to the Capitol to express their great displeasure at the prospect of very deep cuts to public education. The Legislative Budget Board's a base budget that they put out, the proposal they put out, showed a $10 billion gap between what they're talking about us appropriating and what the Texas Education Agency
Well, now that's a number that is so big, I'm not sure what to make of it. How does that cut up?
Right, that's billion B as opposed to million M. Well, it means $5 billion a year, and if you think about it this way, Rick, there are almost 5 million with an M Texas public school students. So if you're cutting $5 billion a year, you're basically cutting $1,000 per student. Now, the amount that's allocated per student is somewhere between $11,000 and $12,000, so on a percentage basis, it's not that enormous. But you tell me, and you ask your viewers, is there $1,000 worth of fat per student to cut from the public education budget? There are people who think we're not spending enough money today, and we're talking about spending that much less. It also amounts to about $20,000 less per classroom, if that's the number that ends up holding through the session.
Now, I understand the superintendents met with the Commissioner of Education.
Right, and his response was basically chill out. He said, look, don't scream and yell, don't point fingers, we're going to get through this. It's not going to be as bad as it appears to be. And I interviewed this week Representative Rob Eisler of the Woodlands, who is the chair of the House Public Education Committee, and his message is very much the same. This is a starting point. The ending point is not going to be quite so bad. The problem is we don't know how much better it's going to be. It may be a little better, but it's not likely to be better enough that we're going to avoid enormous pain. And really, the pain is going to manifest itself, Rick, in two places. And here's where the state officials and elected officials on the one hand and the education folks on the other hand agree. They both want fewer mandates on the school districts as a way to save money. That's going to mean, for one thing, busting through the historic cap on class size, which has been at 22-to-1 in elementary schools, going all the way back to 1984. There's a proposal on the table by Senator Dan Patrick from Houston to make that 21-to-1 district-wide, which gives a lot more latitude to districts and to schools. But in all likelihood, the second part of this is going to happen, which is we're going to see massive reductions in teachers and non-instructional personnel. One mandate that's going to be removed is the inability of districts to furlough employees. We could be looking at cuts of 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 employees of school districts. It's going to be brutal.
And so the districts would like the ability to tell them, okay, we're going to give you 3 days of off work or 12 days where you won't be paid, and spread the pain around so they don't have to fire as many people.
Well, they would like that, but in the end, it's not going to be any different than what we think today. There are going to be fewer teachers, fewer administrators, fewer non-instructional personnel. We're going to have bigger classes. It's going to be ugly.
Now, is this the kind of thing that is likely to hurt the poor school districts more than the property-rich ones?
Well, of course, because if you take a school district like Highland Park up in Dallas, they'll tell you that today, even though they're so wealthy, they're not spending enough money per student. When you hit $1,000 on average per student out of the budget, what's likely to happen is that the districts that have less are going to feel that more acutely. It's disproportional in the places that start off with less. And so, yes, the poorest school districts are invariably going to suffer more under this plan.
Okay, well, we'll have to stay up on this one, Evan, for sure. Thanks for joining us. Evan Smith with the Texas Tribune. We've set up a link to the Texas Tribune website. Just go to klrn.org/TexasWeek.